I think the coolest part is that we have a very unique life to a lot of people, and that can be really fun if you let it be fun.
And she's like, you should never even be here. Like, I don't even know why your parents had you. Oh,
That's
so
bold.
you're like,
Oh my
you're
God,
talking about
yeah.
like being on this earth.
You guys, so exciting. Welcome to Raising Heights with Zach and Tori. I am Tori.
I'm Zach.
And we're so stoked because today, for the very first time, we have guests on our show.
Nice.
So, tell us who you are.
Go for it.
Okay, well, my name's Dee,
I'm Kev.
and we are
Friends.
friends.
We're
Yeah.
friends.
We're friends.
Nice.
We are friends here. And yeah, we're excited. We've never had guests before besides our children.
Yep.
This will be probably a little less chaotic.
Yeah, they raised the bar
Hopefully.
pretty high.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to match that, but
Yeah, we know each other from DAAA,
Yeah.
is where Kevin and I met. And then
Okay, hold on. That was going to be a question. Did
Got
you
it.
know Kevin?
Yeah, we played
Growing
on
up?
the first time we went to Argentina.
Argentina.
Wow.
We played on the same team, and then you were always on the New York
New York Towers.
New York Towers.
Yeah, with
with
Clinton,
Teddy,
yeah,
and
Teddy, and-
Steve.
yeah, it was always
Clint.
that crew.
Yeah, you were a
So-
little younger though.
No, but then we went to I was younger, but when you went to Belfast, I was like one of the young kids in the World Games.
Ireland.
Ireland,
Okay.
You went
like
to Ireland.
way
Well,
back.
You were a junior back
I was a
then.
junior.
Yeah, because I was to say I was
Yeah, you were
19, maybe
yeah.
18.
I was like
Okay,
13, 14.
got it.
So, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, so like
Always
we were in
around.
DAAA together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I met Dee on social media
Yeah.
and had no idea that you guys knew each other.
Kevin's dad was a board member for DAAA for a long time.
long time.
I forgot about
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
detail.
Mike,
Okay.
Mike did his thing. So
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too far into this, though, here at Raising Heights, we like to do Peak and Pit, which,
Nice.
do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, pretty much what's a peak of your week and what's a maybe something that wasn't great,
so good.
you know, but maybe you learned something from it. Maybe, you know,
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah.
got something out of it.
Hey, we've always said it's a good way to, like, communicate with spouse or, you know, whoever about something that could have gone better. So,
What would be your guys' pit?
Oh, that's a hard one to
Yeah,
start
start
with.
off.
because you guys
So
have
start
been
with
on,
negative,
though.
you
Start
guys
with
have been
negative.
on
Yeah,
a
we've
road
been on like
trip
an amazing,
and-
beautiful road
yes.
trip.
Any flat tires? Any...
No, I think my pit. Well, it's like we've been going to Dutch Bros, like
yeah.
constantly. And we don't have. I'm from the Midwest and she's from
Canada.
so we don't have Dutch Bros. But the pit is like every time they ask for one, like, would you like a Dutch Bros card?
Yeah.
And like we've declined it.
We
So
said
now we're
no.
like, now we probably count up the amount of
We're probably
drinks that we've
14
gotten.
coffees in.
That we're like, we should have just gotten the
should.
card
Good pit.
So-
to get
good one.
to get a free coffee.
now
or something.
every time we drive up, we're like, should have got the card.
should have got the card. And now it's too late because it's like
That's
it's not
a good
worth
one.
it.
Wait,
But-
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's some fun.
I would probably. Are you allowed to share pits, or is
Yeah.
that like?
Yeah. Oh,
that-
yeah,
that
like
might
ditto?
be-
Oh, yeah.
That would be our
Okay,
our
that would
pit.
probably be our pit. Yeah, for sure.
Dang.
And then a peak?
What's been like your favorite part of your road trip so far?
Man,
Your coast pictures look
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere.
I think the coast, was definitely fun.
Yeah.
And beautiful weather. Like, especially over here, it could rain all the time, but we just had such nice sun, so that was nice.
yeah, I think
That is so
like
nice.
my peak's just been able to be back in nature and like shoot photos. Like I think I've gone through a lull for the last like 3 or 4 months of like personal projects and finding something that I love to just create. And so
Yeah.
being able to be back in the
Yeah.
nature, it's like finally not work, not anything.
Yes.
Kind of gave you like the fresh start that I needed to
That's awesome.
be able to like kick off again.
For sure.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Kevin is a photographer, 4'5" photographer.
4'5", yeah.
On
Plug,
social media.
plug.
Plug, yeah. it's-
Fantastic.
it's my
You have
height.
great photos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Also,
Even-
does the photos for DAAA.
You did
Yeah.
a great job
Yeah,
on
thank
those.
you. did.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm pumped for this year. It's gonna
Yeah.
have some
gonna be
fun.
sweet.
So
All the Jackson photos from
Yes.
the sports.
I think, though, one of my peaks, this might sound like kind of cheesy because we're guests on your podcast, but it's 100% true. I was just super excited to like get to talk to you longer than like 5 minutes because funniest thing, so we met online, but then you guys came to our wedding in August and we only had like very brief, like, oh, hey, hi, wow, nice to see you. Yeah, this is amazing. Let's chat later. Okay, you don't chat later. And then, so I think I was like, this is like a pretty good peak for me, getting to finally like solidify this like.
Yeah, that's my ditto right there. Oh, nice. 100%.
I'll say that's a good one. You meet people on social media, and then when you finally like actually gonna have a more fluid conversation.
Yes.
And then you still like them after you've had that conversation too. That's a whole other thing.
We're only a day into this. We'll see what happens. That's 100%. But I think that that's something that was so unique because I found Danielle D. I found your social media during, I want to say COVID. It was when you were building your swimming pool.
I think so, yeah.
Which if you like, go check that out because that's so cool because you swim. And I just remember
Paralympic swimmer.
Excuse me.
Not just
not just swim. Just do it for fun.
Not playing with duckies.
Putting the floaties on. Yeah.
So true. Okay. But I found when you were doing that and found you that way because a lot of times I've been introduced to people through Zachary and it's like wives of friends and things like that. But I found your social media completely by accident.
That's wild.
And it was like so encouraging watching someone who has dwarfism, a woman who has dwarfism that is so confident and so, just sharing your light on social media. And I can just remember being like, I want to be friends with this chick. Like, I want to get to know her. I want to know who she is. And I don't think you guys had met. Yeah. Like, had you guys met each other before?
I don't know if
I obviously knew who Zach was, but I don't think we ever met each other. Sorry, big deal.
But I thought that was kind of cool because it was like such an organic way of like finding a friend. It's like, oh, I just think this girl's really cool. Yeah, and it's kind of blossomed into this.
She really has, love. Not to like make you blush or anything, but she said multiple times like, man, that's the kind of inspiration that I want Lila to have. Someone to look up for, right? Like someone. I hope someone comes around when Lila's older that has that same.
But I think it's true when you find a woman like yourself who's so confident in who she is and like the Lord and you share the good news and all these things. I think that I want that for my daughter, and I think that it's cool having, I can relate to her in a lot of different ways, but one way I'll never be able to relate to her with is having dwarfism. And Dad's here too, and that's great, but he's not a girl, like I think having women who
stop crying, fuck up.
Just do it. Just
like get it done. I'm like, I find those people and I'm like, gosh, I want to like keep those people close, and I want my daughter to have these influences and role models in her life because it's important. So it's been fun. It's been fun, like getting to know you guys. And
that's so sweet. That's awesome.
We got to watch you guys get married.
Yeah, that was really special.
That was awesome. You guys came.
So I feel like that should be the first question: is how is married life?
We're still married, so it's going well.
Almost 8 months in.
8 months in.
No, it's been great for us. Like we've been long distance for our whole relationship, so this is our first time where we're actually in the same city for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, because should we tell it kind of like
also, should we peel it back a little bit?
Yeah.
You're from Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Paralympian for Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Repping the Leafs.
Not American.
Red and white. Red and white, no blue.
Red and white, no blue.
And then Kevin, so you're from BC, Canada.
Yeah. I'm from the Midwest, Wisconsin.
So break it down a little bit. Met at an LPA
conference? So we met in 2007 at an LPA conference. It was my first one. Wasn't your first one, I don't think. But we like knew who each other were, but we don't remember ever having a conversation, never talking, like just kind of mutual friends. That was it. And then in 2020, during COVID, I wasn't traveling as much with swimming. Not much to do, so scroll online, and then Kevin posted something on his Instagram that kind of caught my attention. It was like it wasn't like a Bible verse, but it sounded something like scripture based, and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. So I reacted to it, and then he responded to the reaction.
And took the bait.
Well, ladies just out there, if you're like wondering like if you should make the first move or not, I think it's totally fine to like just show a guy that you're a little interested, and then you wait and see if he's like interested back. And so because nobody responds to a reaction, at least I don't.
Okay, did you react or did you comment?
No, it was literally the fire emoji.
I sent the fire emoji and he commented on it.
I commented on that. I was like, oh, I don't even know, like you must have liked it or something.
And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, who responds to a reaction? So I clicked it, and then we started chatting, and then I was like, oh, so I take it you go to church. He's like, yeah, this is my story. This is what happened to me and everything. And then we just started talking and kept talking and talking, and then 2 years later, got married, and it's pretty awesome so far.
So you pretty much dated all the way, like COVID was
we didn't see each other in person for the first 10 months.
10 months. So
the borders were closed.
I went to the Tokyo Paralympics, so couldn't like cross the border with all like the quarantining and stuff you had to do. So we just waited till after I got back, and then I flew down to Cleveland after, and then we met in person, and it really were like
solidified.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is like actually.
That's so encouraging though too,
Yeah.
to like, I mean, the first 10 months of a relationship to only be like talking and there's no like
no physical
in person, no physical, no nothing. I think that's like, in a way, a really great way to start a relationship, you know?
Well, yeah, you get to know each other on like a peer basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were both really like, we kind of, for our experiences, we were very grateful that was how our relationship started, because we were both super busy with the things we were doing, but we also wanted to figure out kind of what was going on, like what this connection could be. And then we had our own ideas of who we wanted to maybe marry and be with. And to be honest, like, Kevin wasn't who I was thinking I'd end up with. And like,
I wasn't.
Yes. Okay. Did you think you were gonna marry an average height? But the question to both
of you, yeah.
Or was it like, did you think like, I'm gonna marry a dwarf? Or
No,
did it even come to your?
Let's answer it together.
Think about being married?
Oh yeah, no. I was gonna be a single man and the whole time. Yeah. No. I never wanted. This sounds bad, but I never wanted to marry a little person. Like, that was like straight up, just always like growing up. I think from earlier on, it was more like, I'm not like everyone else, because like, so I don't want to marry. Like, I had this bad ego, I would say, about how I perceived myself as maybe better than my little people peers, and it just became being like, okay, I don't want to marry another little person because that's the stigma. Like, I want to break the stigma in a sense. And then it just became like, no, that was always what I was attracted to until literally.
And
I don't think you're the only one. Like, there's other people that ego or something else comes in, or like the expectation is either that's family pressure or something. You're a little person, so you'll just marry another little person, and then you grow up with that, or you fight it. Yeah. You know, when really, like, you know, you could marry a little person, you could marry an average height. It doesn't matter. But I feel like what you just said, there's other guys that go through that in their head, that fight. So what were you gonna say?
Had you guys dated much before each other?
Briefly, a little bit.
I had one or two
average height girlfriends.
No, they were all
little
people.
Yeah,
so.
And I think we both kind of just wrote off little people.
Yeah, just because of.
So is that why you like? Is that maybe why you said, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to marry an LP"? Because
I think a little bit. I mean, I think I had some experiences and just thought, you know, like, let's see what else is out there.
And like, we both also grew up with average height parents.
Right.
So your whole like family like are tall. And so when you think of like family, or for me, like being like a woman, like you kind of want to feel like secure, you want to feel protected in a way. Like, I didn't equate protection and security to another dwarf, because that's just what deep. I wasn't used to.
Yeah,
that's super deep.
Yeah. And
that's super interesting.
That's just how it was.
Now?
Yeah, no, now I'm good. He's so kind.
Still
but
not.
I think, like, Danielle and I were actually talking about that, is I think that the same could be said for me. Like, I don't think I ever looked at somebody who had dwarfism as being like, oh yeah, that guy could take care of me, and that guy could protect me in a sense, and lead me, and that could be a good relationship, until you meet the right person. And then once you meet the right person, who cares? Like, who cares if they're tall, short, you know?
Like when you're like in your adolescent or whatever, you're very caught up in physical appearances.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, when you're connected with someone or fall in love with someone, you realize there's a lot more than just, you know, the physical appearance or
I think it's interesting. You brought up a point that both of your parents separately are average height. All four are average height.
All four.
I think it's interesting because, and tell me if I'm wrong, but didn't you always say you were going to marry an LP?
I apparently said that. I don't remember what I said. Okay,
Zach was never going to get married, honestly.
I probably wasn't going to get married. I didn't really date or anything. Yeah. But yes, apparently on one of our shows, a fan pointed this out. I said I was gonna marry a dwarf, and I was gonna have 3 or X amount of dwarf kids, and be done with it. And then here we are.
What did you say? You said something about like a army of dwarfs.
Yeah,
I
wanted.
I mean, you got.
Yeah,
you got it.
Apparently, I said like a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
Like young, but I wanted like a bunch of dwarf kids, and let's go. That's what happened.
That's funny. Tall girl though.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
but I wasn't looking at all. Like I wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I. I don't think I thought one way or the other.
I don't think even after meeting me, I was kind of like, so we're gonna get married, and we're gonna
Yeah.
do this. Like,
So Tori, then for you, like what was that moment that changed? Because like for us being long distance, that gave us a lot of time to work through our own like assumptions kind of what we wanted, and then now we've met each other and we're like, oh, this guy's actually kind of cool, this girl's kind of cool. Like, do you remember a moment with Zach where that changed?
I mean, honestly, I think I was always pretty secure in our relationship.
Okay,
I remember
nice.
after our first date, I remember being like, I'm gonna marry him. Like, it was so comfortable, it was so natural the way he like talks, and
I was on point that night.
he was on point that night. That whole,
Oh, yeah.
I just met him and I was like, this is the guy I'm gonna marry. And
Yeah.
it was done. I think that for me, it was different with kids. I think it took me a minute being like, okay with, I loved him from the beginning, honestly. Like, I knew. But then once we started dating and I started kind of like looking at my life and like what it was going to become if I ended up with him, if he chose me, essentially. I chose him, but if he had chosen me, I think I got really nervous and scared about like, well, can I have a family with this man? Like, that's like something I really want to do.
Talk about Boston. You don't have to go into all the details.
It wasn't Boston.
Oh, okay.
So I was nervous, but then
Or Detroit World Games.
The moment for me was Detroit World Games. I went, and it was the first time I'd ever been around DAAA.
Yeah.
So it was like less overwhelming than
LPA or
LPA.
DAAA.
It was DAAA. And just watching everyone compete and watching kids compete and have so much fun. And that was honestly the turning point for me, that I needed to be like, okay, I can move forward in this relationship. But I think I was always very secure in him.
Nice.
It was just this like, what is my life going to look like if I choose him? And
Now you got the 3
awesome.
cutest little kids.
I know.
Yeah,
Me
that's
too.
so true.
I love them. Lila already said we can be friends. So
I know.
it's so
Did you
cute.
hear her? She's, D, I'm going to go get a snack. I'll be right
Yeah.
back.
Be right back.
Like, just so enamored.
Well, they were all playing with them, and I just I got the car ready, and I was like, I'm just gonna leave. I walked out, and I didn't hear any screaming, so I'm like, all right,
Yep.
That was a good
let's
first
go.
test. Yeah.
Yes.
You guys talked about this on your podcast, though. I know you've only been married for a year. Like, kids, no kids. You guys want kids?
Yeah, we definitely want kids. Right now, we're going, because I'm from Canada, he's the U.S.
Yep.
I'm going through a whole immigration process of getting my green card. Any of you who've gone through that, take some time. So you pull up a chair, you wait, exercise
long time.
patience. So we're just in the process of that. So I think once I move down to the States and we get settled and stuff, then we'll think more on it. But we definitely want kids. And I think for us, because we both have the same form of dwarfism, there's like just a few more things you might want to be prepared for. I think just health-wise, like when we do have kids, and the percentage of if we have a child with average, like whose average height, dwarfism, or have double dominant, like I think we want to be wise and when we start a family, but also trust God for that timing. But I think just like enjoy our time while we can.
Yeah, we're soaking it up, and
Just like, I guess for the viewers, though, there are things, double dominance.
And we could do a whole
is-
episode
yeah,
on that. And
two-
honestly, you guys have an episode on your podcast that you do a very good job of explaining kind of
Thank you.
what can happen and the difficulties that come along with achondroplasia people.
Yes, double dominance can cause complications
Yeah.
with a child, early death. And
Yeah.
so there are things to consider, and it's a journey.
Yeah.
I don't think that should stop anyone if they want to have kids. You can see, I don't know if you guys read comments or get that kind of feedback, but there are people that will say some nasty stuff to us
Oh yeah.
about bringing
Which
kids
is a
with
whole other
dwarfism.
podcast.
That's a
Yeah.
whole nother
That's
podcast.
a whole.
That's
Bringing-
a whole
Yeah, we
other.
talked.
Yeah.
I think everyone has a right to give birth and or have kids, and whatever God gives you is a blessing.
Absolutely.
And going to teach someone. There's a purpose.
Well, even tell them your story of that.
Yeah, I was in high school, and I had just gotten my driver's license, so I was super amped and excited and like ready to basically do all the errands my mom needed to get done. Like that was, you get your driver's license and you want to go help. Like it's shocking, right? And then that only lasts 6 months. But my mom gives me a grocery list to go to the store, and I go and I'm in the produce section, and I'm grabbing a bag of apples, and I vividly remember it. And this older lady comes by, and she's like, "Why are you here?" Yeah. I'm like, just grabbing my apples. Like, do you need help? Like, do you want Macintosh or Granny Smith? And she's like, "No, why are you here?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, you should never even be here. Like, I don't even know why your parents had you. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. You're like, you're talking about like being on this earth. And like I walked away that day, and I was like, first of all, for people that have like a mindset of like,
it's dark.
It's
dark,
mindset.
Right? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just here trying to do my thing, and like this is 16 years after my parents had me, and like
that is wild.
Like
I don't think
thriving.
I don't think that minority thinking, those few people out there, should dictate how we go about things.
No, they should.
But like there is an awareness that those people are out there,
right?
And it's wild. On the internet, they're there. I think it's super interesting.
I think something that you guys, especially you, D, I think that you guys do a really good job of spreading the good news on social media. Like, how do you guys stay faithful in those moments? Because that's like you could go, especially only being 16 years old, you can go many different directions.
Yeah.
Like,
shine your light. I like your guys's.
Yeah, I just like, how do you guys kind of like keep your faith at the center when you hit those trials? Because I think that's a huge again, just you've had some crazy things happen with a story that you told about a homeless man that had came up to you. Like, how do you guys stay faithful in those moments? And that might be a deep question, but
that's a really good one.
That's what podcasting's for. Getting the deep stuff out. I think just like knowing that everyone is unique in their own way. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone was born for a reason. And just because you look a little different, just because you came from a different family, just because, stuff has happened doesn't disqualify you from the life that you've been given. And I think when you can walk in that and you can have this understanding, like, no, like I do matter. I do belong. And trying to figure out like how you can shine your light like in those ways. So our big thing, and before I met Kevin, I started like a YouTube channel called This Little Light. It's all about like how each one of us has a unique light to shine, and when we choose to shine it, we make the world brighter. But your light's different than mine, my light's different than yours, and so but we each have like a responsibility to do that. And for Kevin, he was always big on like
I was making a difference with your difference.
Yeah,
so similar,
very similar. And so we choose to try to walk our life and show like the world that you can make a difference with what you have. And it doesn't have to be physically like difference. Like everyone's different,
right?
Yeah.
Like nobody looks alike.
Those stories.
Yeah. And so you don't have to have dwarfism to shine your light. You can, whatever, like be whoever you are. Yeah. But it is a responsibility in a sense to, if you want to shine, like you have to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And the only way to do that is choosing to live the life you've been given.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Like I don't know life any different. So it's
True.
like I was never given 10 days in a different body. Right. So it's like I can't necessarily like this is what I've been given and this is the life I'm living. Like I just see it as normal life, right? And I'm sure like for each of us in different instances, like so I can't compare myself to anything. So I think just over time I just kept telling myself like this is your life, like this is it, this is all you got, like live it up basically, right? And then as you get older, I honestly think like having a motto, as cheesy as it might sound, or something that you like hold on to as a belief every day is super important, because you're gonna face those trials. You're gonna face those
guardrails.
Exactly.
In a sense, they keep you on.
And then
track.
now having each other, like that's the biggest kind of partner and supporter, but also person to check you.
Yeah.
Make sure you're still.
Well, that's
and I find like in the you know, since I've become a mom and like having kids and wanting to find people to like build your village around, I do sometimes, and this might be controversial to say, but a lot of times within the dwarf community, it is hard to find people that are like very confident in who they are and what they've been given, and because it is such an easy thing.
But it's a struggle though
anyone,
too.
like not just dwarfism,
tough.
like anyone. I could, you know, I got brown hair. Why? You know, there's so many things that can tear you down in life. Yeah. And finding that faith, you know, you want to find those people to hold on to.
Yeah. No, but confidence is a tough thing. It's like really, it is. Like sometimes I want to say like, oh, dwarfism doesn't matter. Like I'm just like everyone else. But then also other times like I don't want to downplay it either. Like now that I have dwarf kids, like kids with dwarfism, I think about it a lot more. Yeah. And there are times like it is, you know, they're like anyone else. They can do what anyone else does. But yes,
but
at the same
in a different way.
Yes, but they do need
that sounds familiar.
They maybe do need a little bit more resilience, a little bit more confidence, a little bit, you know, a couple more steps than everyone else. Try a little bit harder.
That's true.
Do you get what I'm saying? There's a balance there. Like I don't want people to be like, oh, I'm totally okay, but I also you don't have to feel sorry for me. But like there has to be some sort of acknowledgement. Like no, this is kind of tough. Like always,
for sure.
Being recognized in every room. You know. Like not recognize like I'm Zach, but like recognize as the short person.
People immediately,
you know, no one forgets you.
No.
In that sense, like you stand out.
That's a blessing.
You can never put a hood on.
You
know, you can never put a hood on, put your sunglasses on, and just go into the grocery store. So that wears on people, especially kids. Kids have, you know, hard time. Teenagers have a hard time either way. Yeah. And then you add some element. I always say with dwarfism, like every teenagers will be insecure, okay? But you grow out of that. You grow out of your insecurities as a teenager. Like when you have something like a dwarfism or other things, you become confident in yourself. You grow into it. Out of it. But you don't ever, that doesn't leave you. No. Your high school insecurity is still here, you know, but you've learned to overcome it. People will try to compare or whatever. I'm like, there's not a comparison here. Like,
it's not like crooked teeth that get straightened out.
You can go get those straightened.
Exactly. You know? You can't fix it. Like it's there. And like you also don't have to go far to learn life lessons. Like life lessons kind of just come at your doorstep just because of literally like just having to figure out and adapt. And like
I've always thought kids with dwarfism, like either there's a immaturity slightly because they've been coddled. Parents coddle them, baby them, whatever else. They treat them like a 6-year-old when really they're 12, you know, and that doesn't help them at all, especially everything I just said. Or there are people with dwarfism that have a different maturity kids than their peers because they've seen things. They physically cannot overcome anything. They've had to observe longer than others. And so there's two different types of.
So have you guys? I mean, how do you guys kind of deal with that when you like? Do you feel when you guys go out into public together that it's a spectacle, or do you feel confident and like? Like
what's reality? Like there's sometimes people I feel
this is a good one where I think I know where you're going with this.
Oh shoot, what am I?
Okay, wait, sorry.
Or, like,
I interrupted you. Sorry.
Is there a reality? Are you actually a spectacle? Because there are times when I'll be like, man, like this and that, people make fun, whatever. But then there's other times like Jackson just met a kid at the beach, and this kid could care less that he had dwarf. Like I noticed it almost like this whole family like. Not one word. This kid just started playing together on the beach. I'm like, that's awesome. Like that kid literally could give 2 peanuts that Jackson was short. I don't know if he just assumed he was young, but they're like having a conversation.
That's great.
So like there's moments where I'm like, wait a minute, there are people out there. There are these terrible people, but then there is a good amount of people that I don't know if that's more awareness of society in general with people with differences, or society has matured a little bit, or am I wrong? Do you guys feel like you're a spectacle? Like every time you go out, like have we matured as a society? And is it just in your head? Get my point there?
Yeah. I would honestly say like you guys have done like a huge job of paving a way in a sense of like I think like difference and accepting difference, and like whether people recognize it or not, like I think it's just it's a subconscious thing that I think they've seen and they recognize and they understand. And to your point, like I was just in Florida the other week for work, and I was running on the beach, and like I was consciously aware, almost counting in my head, okay, we're on a beach in spring break, like it's kids everywhere, like I'm gonna be like I'm in a fish tank, like running, and like I was counting, like, okay, is this kid staring? No, he's not. Like this kid is, like, and it's almost like, okay, are their parents teaching them something different? Like, are they learning a little bit more about difference, you know, back at home? But I think like you and I together, I like to say that I'm like not observant of when things happen. But then we were just together in Milwaukee, visiting my family, and we had just recorded a podcast about
literally about kids making fun of us.
Kids making fun of us and staring. And we're coming out of a movie, or going to a movie, coming out of dinner, and this guy in a truck like pulls down his window, takes his phone, and starts recording us. And I flip instantly.
Yeah, I've never actually seen him like.
Wait, what'd you do?
You were hot.
He like was running.
I bolted to the car. I'm like, dude,
Kevin,
not now. Like, I was gonna grab the phone, and he's like,
this is an adult, though.
This is an adult.
Child.
No,
but like, I thought I was cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like the moment, and this was our first really big moment of like someone
like,
reacting negatively, and I like.
He's like,
see, that's
whatever.
I was like, oh, any fear of not being protected.
He like,
so you don't have to worry about it anymore.
But to your point, like,
it
just sometimes hits. Like,
that's sad. Yeah, because in that moment, you I don't know. Sometimes a moment like that happens to me, and then I think that's the majority, and then it takes a bunch of actual majority situations to remind myself. You know, the world is, in my opinion, the world, at least American culture, society is getting better, but there is still these incidences.
And I think for us, though, too, it's sometimes difficult to distinguish, like, are they, because we've had people take pictures all the time. And it's hard to distinguish, like, are you taking a photo because he has dwarfism, or are you taking a photo because Little People Big World? Which one is it? Because it's, to me, I have more grace for fans who want to take photos, because I get it. If I saw somebody that I really loved in public, that I'd probably try to sneak a photo too, just to like show my friends. So it's like
weirdo.
I know. Well, and I probably, now that I've met you and we've done this, I probably would be less likely to do that. But at the same time, when people take photos, if it's because he has dwarfism, like,
it's hard, though.
What in the world?
That's hard to tell.
And we always have to defer to it's a fan.
It's a fan.
But there's times where I'm like, oh man, you don't look like someone that's watching TV.
Well, even funny, like, speaking of the show, like when we were driving down in Oregon, someone came out to us and were like, oh, hey, how have you been? Like, you don't live that far from here. And we're like, sorry, what? Like, yeah, don't you live in, like, she thought I was your mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
so how many,
wrong person.
I have to ask, how many times have you been asked if you're Zach Roloff?
Multiple.
A lot, quite often.
It's always that, or it's like
walking down the street, like, oh, hey, you're on the show. Like, no, but I know what you're talking about, but no.
There's been some times I just roll with it, and I'm like, yeah, take a picture. Let you figure it out afterwards. Like, I'm just like, you might as well. You gotta like entertain yourself sometimes.
That's so
good. It's good.
Well, I love the whole, like, I love the every time you meet a person with dwarfism, they're like, oh, do you know Sally?
Yeah.
Do you know Sally? And like,
did you go to this high school?
Yeah, did you go? Yeah, no. You're like, they don't all know each other. We're all just people here.
Yeah. I think on the other side of like what you're saying about how it's like can be hard to navigate like being different, and like it's not easy, like it takes extra effort. I think also it's like that people, I'd like to think, and I think maybe this is just that Christian perspective coming through, but I like to think that people take notice of someone that's different, but it's not always like what it's like, might be what you look like is what attracts them to staring or whatever, but it could also be like, you know, the light of Christ like inside of you that someone's drawn to, or like they're drawn to, like, you know, like this person looks different, and then but they're also acting different. They also approach life with a little bit more courage, with a little bit more effort. Like that's interesting.
I like that. Yeah,
it's like it could be like, you know, it's they could be staring because you look this way, but then if they stare long enough, you could have the opportunity to give them something worth looking at and something being intrigued.
Yeah, there's a confidence there.
Yeah.
You're also not putting off this, the stereotype of bitter and which I don't blame those people that are struggling
Absolutely
with
not,
having dwarfism. They're bitter, they're angry, they don't, but that is, you want to believe that. And then, if they stare long enough, I like that.
Yeah.
They can see something else.
That's such an encouraging way to look at it as be something worthwhile to stare at and be, I think that you get this opportunity, and even whether it's because my husband has dwarfism, because we were on a television show, because it's just me, when you have this opportunity to talk to people that maybe you never would have talked to otherwise,
Absolutely.
It is such a blessing, because it's like you can change someone's perspective, you can change someone's day, you can change someone's attitude just by being different, just by having this different circumstance. You can share the love of Jesus, and that I think in itself is, and I've always told Zachary and his mom, which love her so much. She is from Michigan though. I don't know if you've met people from Michigan. They're very harsh.
He's from Midwest. He knows what you're talking about.
They're very we're
hardworking,
sorry, are you good? We're very whatever. But I've told Amy before, because everyone gets so excited to meet her, and she is such an encouragement to so many people. And I'm like, you gotta just be a little bit nicer. When people come up to you, just be a little bit nicer. And she has because I think that with you and your family, you guys have the ability to change the day of somebody. I've seen before people really know who I was, they would come up and say hi or get an autograph or a picture or whatever it was, and they would leave just giddy, so excited. Cool. And
it's hard though to always carry that burden.
100%. That's a weight. That's a weight.
I want a follow-up question from one of our podcast episodes. Do you guys feel it's I argued it's not, and educating parents and people with differences, is it when someone comes up and says, some kid maybe says, why are you so short? And the mom goes, hey, why are you guys so short? Is that your burden to educate that child right there? Or is that the parent's burden? Is that people with differences' burden to carry that education?
That's a good question. I think that depends how it depends how the situation unfolds. I think it is, if there is a kid who comes up to you and is yelling, pointing, being a little rude, I think it's that parent's responsibility to parent their kid and say we don't treat anybody like that, and step in. And then if they want to take them aside, explain it to them separately. That's their choice. But then if they choose to handle it and ask if hey, can we talk to you? My son or daughter is wondering why you're so different, then I think that's okay. I'm totally fine anyways to answer that. But I think in large part it's how the parent handles the way the child's curious, because we talked about this too. We've believed that curiosity, we're all curious, and sometimes curiosity can become destructive if it's not managed at a certain age, and it's not taught well or fostered well. But then we're all curious, and so curiosity isn't bad. It just depends how that plays out. And as parents, we're not parents, but I'm sure you guys know this, you have a pretty great opportunity to steward that curiosity and make it a little healthier. But I think we're all curious by nature, so it just kind of depends.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know if that answers
I think it's such a hard question too, because I haven't known you guys for very long, but I can see that I don't think that you guys would shy away from educating or from answering questions of curious people.
Yeah. Well, and everyone's different.
And I think that's the thing, is it's just everyone is different. Everyone's, and it's so hard to know. Yeah. Without knowing someone, you don't know if they're comfortable sharing. And so I think just asking is the best way to just, hey, I like what you said. Are you comfortable?
Yeah. But being to all the parents out there though, be okay with them saying, I'm just trying to get my milk. That's not my so yes, individuals could be okay with it.
And not judging in that moment too. Just not judging that person.
Oh, they're grumpy, they're mean.
I'm always the proponent of as a parent though, I don't ever want to teach my kid. You see it all the time. The kid says something and the parent shushes or pushes. That's where I'm
This is just awkward.
This is just awkward. Like, I can hear you, like, shushing, like, and what are you teaching your kid? Like, every time they see something different, now it's gonna be the weird thing, or it's gonna be the abnormal thing. Yeah. And so, like, it's hard for me sometimes not to, I don't step in, but I'm like, you want to step in at them.
Yeah, that's super
because you're saving, like, you want to save them from future issues, right? And so, like, I could care less if you get educated on whether or not, like, what dwarfism is, but, like, I want to be like shushing is
let me help you, like, let me help guide your parenting
in that way, just in that moment.
Or in that moment, like, grace to parents, like, sometimes it can be like, oh, and so your immediate reaction is like, be quiet.
Yeah.
But you gotta follow up.
And some parents do get embarrassed. Like, there's like, that's when you have kids, they say stuff that you're like, oh my Lanta, like, what's coming out of your mouth? Like, I think there's certain things, like, I don't get embarrassed. I'll parent my kid in public, and I don't care who's listening, who's watching.
Nice.
I don't care. I do it respectfully, of course. But there are parents that they don't know how to parent in the moment like that with something that's so different and so new. Right. So I could see that, and I think it's just important then to, like, follow up. When you go home, follow up or just say, hey, I don't know a lot about dwarfism. Let's figure it out together.
Yeah. So the follow up, we can have I can have grace for the shush in the moment. But it's got to be a follow up, like, hey, that was a person with dwarfism, or that person's short. That's how God made them. Right. Everyone's a little different. You know, those questions, pointing at someone as rude in public. You know, if you have questions about people, you ask mom and dad quietly later. Whatever you want to say to them. But yeah, you gotta follow up if you do go that route.
Well, especially with kids, because they don't know what's, like, different. Like, if they see, well, they know what's different, but they don't. Our
kids do that, and I'm like,
hey guys,
like, you're not gonna like it when they do it to you. What are you doing staring?
Exactly.
Yeah, and, like, the sooner, like, the younger you can teach a kid that, you know, this is, like, there's a lot of differences, and this is how we handle that, they're gonna be so much better as they get older, and then they can educate their friends. They can, like, tell people, you know, about the things that they see and the appropriate words to use and whatnot. So.
100%.
Yeah. Sorry, one more follow up.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this one's gonna be controversial.
I love it.
All right, Disney.
Look at him, he's like moving the mic closer.
Yeah, Disney's remake. This could just be a yes or no. We did an episode about this. Disney's remake of the Seven Dwarfs, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Should they? Do you agree?
So what's the background? So
well, they're making a live action, and
it's just Snow White.
Peter Dinklage.
It's not called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's just called Snow White.
But Peter Dinklage made a comment about it. They got rid of the Seven Dwarfs. They have one dwarf now, and they're like her creatures, or like
magical creatures.
Yeah, but they're average height actors with one dwarf actor.
So it's not even a little person actor.
Yes. Well, no, the little person is an actor.
Oh, just one.
But then the 6 other are. They got rid of the dwarfs. It's just Snow White now.
Yeah.
Okay, because of this comment Peter Dinklage made on, and I don't. I'm not gonna say my opinion. Okay.
Except you've already said your opinion.
So what? Wait,
what are you guys?
Episodes.
Are you pro them retelling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or do you think that whole story should be scrapped? And it's ridiculous that dwarfs play people with dwarfism play dwarfs, or those kind of characters in movies.
Has the story been told too many times?
So yeah, I mean,
be controversial. Okay?
You know what? I'm gonna like. I think so. I don't know what Peter Dinklage said, but like I've loved that he's pushed the boundary beyond what just a typical dwarf role is, and so I think we're at a point where like there's some really good little people actors who should be playing and can play legit roles that are not necessarily fit for little people.
Yeah.
Frankly, like I've always kind of like cringed, I think, a little bit at like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, just because it has become like such a stereotype. And like any of those roles, like I try to like go against. Like I remember this was in college, but like, you know, Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas, right? Like I was like, you know what, like I'll do a costume, but like I'm gonna be Willy Wonka and you're gonna be my Oompa Loompas, and it was two like average height friends, right? So it's like I think I'm personally past the point of seeing those roles be focused.
Yeah.
And should be interesting. You agree?
I'll let you. You can agree, disagree. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think I would probably agree with that. That's Yeah, no, I would say the same. I think it's cool how there is other dwarf actors are playing roles that aren't mystical creatures, that aren't fantasies, that aren't things that, like the circus era and stuff. Like, I remember when The Greatest Showman came out, I went to watch it with a friend, and we felt so awkward. She had dwarfism as well. We felt so awkward leaving the theater because it just felt like, because like we just watched some dwarfs like in the circus run across the table. We're like, like we wouldn't do that, and it just kind of felt like weird. That's just my personal like feeling and stuff. And just kind of someone like a movie glorifying like the circus era where someone was known for putting a freak show together, and dwarfism being labeled like you're being kind of labeled as a freak, like that's not fun. And so for like Hollywood to kind of glorify that, like that doesn't sit well. But definitely how I totally think that there's some like amazing, talented like actors with dwarfism who are doing a really good job. Does Snow White need to just be retold again? I mean, there's so many other stories you could tell. Like, so you could leave it. Like, you don't have to bring up the past.
That's Tori's. Okay, that's Tori's thing. Like, we don't have to tell that story again.
Yeah. I think there's other ones you could do. I think that's really cool that they actually listened to Peter Dinklage about that. Maybe
interesting
in a way.
So what was his original? What was his quote or what was his comment?
Yeah, what is it?
He didn't think, he thought it was great that they updated Snow White. It's a Hispanic actress or whatever, but we don't need the dwarfs in there.
I don't think he said you don't need the dwarfs in there. He just said the story, like, why are we still telling this story?
So my argument was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. If you're going to say Snow White, you can update the dwarfs too. They don't have to be miners in a cave, living out in a cave.
True,
They can be legit roles.
It could be legit roles, like just regular people retell the story, which they do with all the remakes. If you're gonna have Snow White, in my opinion, I was like, you put the Seven Dwarfs in there, and you can update. You can update the dwarfs. You can make them normal 7 friends living in the village. They don't have to be this isolated house out in the middle of nowhere. It could be like, and then I don't know, the girl goes missing, Snow White goes missing, and these friends, like, there's other. If you're gonna tell the story, taking away those roles, and I argue, so you don't have to dress them up all fancy. They could look like normal people, like a Tyrion role. More exposure to dwarfs, people with dwarfism looking normal in movies.
I think it's
can be a good thing. And I thought Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was an opportunity to up. So if you're gonna update Snow White, you can update the dwarfs too, and you can make it. So we're not running across the table or anything.
But then also now, like, the controversy though too is now you have taken away 6 jobs from LPs who possibly could have had
jobs.
And an opportunity.
And sometimes that's
there's still one.
That's the foot in the door too. I mean, that's the tough part in the industry. Like,
my argument with Peter of all people to say this, I thought it was a little like, you're probably not gonna be one of the 7 dwarfs just because of he's up here.
But it's interesting too because like. One of my favorite movies is Elf, right? Yeah. And he's an elf, and he's technically doing that stereotype where he runs across the conference room. Like, so he had his moments too.
Yeah, he had his moment.
He learned and then he got Tyrion.
But if you put 7 dwarfs in there and give them a big role, that could have been their launching pad to being the next Tyrion. For him, of all people, the top dog to shut down that, I thought was a little, and I guess don't
get it twisted. We are very much Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. He's fantastic.
Amazing.
Okay, my point though to that, very curious
this went, like,
to what
way
other
different direction.
No, it's all good.
It's good.
It's what you say. We're all learning everyone's different perspective.
Because we have dwarfism, we don't think the same way. Because we have dwarfism, we don't think the same way.
Yeah, we don't.
What? That is news to me. Wow.
No, but to hear other perspectives though, it's not just. No. I was very passionate about it though.
For sure.
And I'm like this, like, I don't know. I'm like, this was an opportunity. Millions of kids will watch that. It's on Disney Plus. This could have been an opportunity. Again, if you're going to update Snow White, you could update the Seven Dwarfs too and make them look normal people.
I think that's it. I think it's time.
Darn it, make Snow White a dwarf.
We live exactly. We live in a time where like we should be like roles should be elevated to the point where it's like you're not putting them in a box of this is what they always wear. This is
so
we ask for diversity in a sense, and I won't go too far into this, but like Disney and a lot of these other they're asking for diversity in other roles that have now been like changed. Like you know, different, whether it's different races, whatever, right? So at the same point, like, why can't you change your role to be a little bit more sophisticated to fit a dwarf actor who is talented and just as good?
Good word.
And you maybe explore, maybe like dive into like they're not just the Seven Dwarfs, but like give them the names, not Dopey or anything. It's Fred, Frank, and Tim. Dive into like the Tim story a little. Like there's an opportunity there. That I think, based on what they were all saying, like this, don't retell the same story. Okay, you kind of still are. You basically just swept the dwarfism issue under the rug, in my opinion. And now we're not discussing it. And it's like, whoa, okay, you got to scrap the whole thing then.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, don't just get rid of the dwarf. Oh, but wait a minute, they still have their token dwarf in there, and now we're back to square one. You know, like ooh.
Okay. I think either way, that movie is probably not gonna be on the top of our list.
I don't
to
think
see,
we'll.
But
Maybe this will affect the box office numbers, and they'll come
sure Zach's
and realize, okay, we should have listened to Zach. Yeah.
So anyway, this was fun.
I feel like we should ask like one final question.
Yeah.
This might be offensive. I have a question.
Do it.
What's like the best part about having dwarfism?
Have an opportunity to shine your light.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Right?
I guess we do have the same
opinion. I learned that from you.
I thought Zach was going to say the feet space on an airplane.
Oh, you're thinking that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, now ask me the best part about being an average height.
What's the best part?
Just kidding.
I don't know. The best part about being a dwarf, you do have a different opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all we know, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's all we know. I mean, getting to do cool things like go to the little people conferences and have vacations that a lot of people don't get to have, and
there are opportunities where we do stand out.
You stand like honestly,
and you can't pick and choose. No. But like there are opportunities that have come to me. I stood out, and then someone did remember me, and then it's they get to know you. So there are opportunities that maybe a crowd of 10 average heights you don't stand out at all. Right. So there are opportunities I think that come our way. That maybe if you're just the same old person, it's completely random.
I would agree. I think the coolest part is that we have a very unique life to a lot of people, and that can be really fun if you let it be fun. And there are just many different opportunities, different approaches to the same thing that everyone else does, but you kind of get to tackle life a little differently, and that can be cool. And you can really find new things. You find new things out about yourself and about what's humanly possible to do, what the human spirit is capable of. There's a quote, I think Cheryl Strayed says this, and she says, "You don't have a right to the cards you believe you should have been dealt, but you have an obligation to play the heck out of the ones you have."
Yeah, heck yeah.
And I love that. And it's just as everyone on earth, we don't have a right to the cards. I wish my life should have been like this, my life should have been like that. You can do that all you want, but you're not going to get anywhere. But you do have an obligation to play the heck out of the life and the cards you've been given.
Man, what
and
a
do
liner.
The best you can.
God.
Yeah. And so it's just
lay it down, bro.
It's just true. And I think just
this might be a reoccurring guest.
You're gonna come back next week.
With those liners.
There you go.
Okay.
And so I don't know. It's just it's cool.
Yeah,
it's great.
Sure.
And we don't know any different, but we can sure play the heck out of the life we have. So.
All right.
Well, this has been so fun. We are honored
I love this.
that you guys were able to do this. We're honored that we're friends. This has just been so much fun getting to know you guys, and you guys have been such an encouragement to us and to me specifically. And
for me, having an average height wife, it's been fun watching Tori immerse herself a little bit more into that community, not shy away from it, not hey, let's get to know some of these people. So I feel a little bit more part of this.
That's cool.
I'm pulling Zach out of his introverted.
And she's doing that.
That's awesome. Well, and I think for Kevin and I, like we never thought that we'd marry another person with dwarfism. And so for us, it's like, well, like getting to partner together, and like we have so many similarities that we didn't realize like we could just relate on that are like really helpful. Like I always tell him, I said like, I never imagined that I would marry you, but I can't imagine not being married to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're everything that I didn't know I need kind of thing, but everything I need.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of cool for us. So just on the other side of like your experience and our experience, it's like we now get to, you know, make a difference together with a shared difference. And you get to see like Tori, like, you know, stepping into this world as well, and you guys making a difference in with your own situation, and we get to do it together, and this is fun.
Yeah, love it.
You guys are so wise for only being married a year, or not even a year.
Check
like
in
we need to
with
step
us.
up our game.
A year, so if it
Up it
continues.
up.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you guys, we will link everything, but make sure you guys follow Kevin and Dee on social media and check out their podcast.
Yep, A Little More Light.
There you go.
Spotify,
A Little More
Apple
Light.
Music,
It's
whatever you
great.
listen on.
And we'll link it for you guys so you guys can find it in our YouTube stuff. We'll link everything. But thank you guys
Thanks
for
for
being
having
here.
us.
And thank you for
So
hosting.
we were not able to perfect this on season 1, but our outro here, okay, we're going to attempt to do our outro with you guys, but we like to say, do your best, forget the rest. Okay.
Right.
So
Are we all
we're going to
doing it
try to do it
together?
together. I'm going to say, do your best, and we're all going to say, forget your rest together. Forget the rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? Do your best.
Forget the rest.